This is CBN NewsWatch.
It is Friday, September 4th. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Ephraim Graham. Ahead today, authorities try to make an arrest, leaving one man dead. President Donald Trump takes a hard line against his political rival and rioters. Meanwhile, Democratic nominee Joe Biden makes a plea for voters in Kenosha. And excitement in the Middle East but not from everyone. All those stories and more are ahead in this edition of CBN NewsWatch. I want to begin this half hour with a man suspected of shooting and killing a supporter of a right-wing group. He was killed Thursday. Michael Forrest Reinhold was shot by an officer as a federal task force tried to arrest him. One official said the suspect pulled a gun during the encounter. Reinhold appeared to admit he was responsible for the deadly shooting of Aaron J. Danielson at a Portland protest. He said he acted in self-defense because he and a friend were about to be stabbed. The mayor of Rochester, New York, has suspended 7 police officers involved in the suffocation death of a 41-year-old black man. Back in March, police officers saw Daniel Prude running naked. They put a hood over his head to stop him from spitting, then held him down for about 2 minutes until he stopped breathing. He died when he was taken off life support 7 days later. His death received no public attention until Wednesday, when his family held a news conference and released police body camera footage. Prude's death is now under investigation by the state attorney general's office. President Donald Trump embraced supporters with his law and order message last night. President Trump spoke in Pennsylvania, taking a hard line against protesters.
But it's okay for them to make every city look just like Portland, which is a disaster. And again, we could clean it up. We just go right through it. 5,000, 10,000, right through it. These guys are tough, they're smart, and they love our country. They love our country. We'll clean it up in 1/2 hour. It'll be over.
The president spoke in front of a crowd of hundreds packed into an airport hangar where people stood closely together. He told the crowd he is all for wearing masks and urged them to be careful during the upcoming Labor Day weekend. Meanwhile, presidential nominee Joe Biden met with members of the Kenosha community Thursday. Protests have gone on for days and fires have destroyed some buildings. Biden told reporters he hoped to bring a message of progress and unity to the area. Prior to his visit to Kenosha, Biden also spoke with the family of Jacob Blake in Wisconsin. He described speaking with the man who is now paralyzed as a cop shot him.
He talked about how nothing was going to defeat him. How, whether he walked again or not, he was not going to give up. We talked about a psalm in our church, Father, based on the 23rd Psalm. May he raise you up on eagle's wings and bear you on the breath of dawn until keep you in God, holding the palm of his hand that we meet again.
Amid racial tensions, college athletes are using their platforms to fight racism and police brutality. Southern Methodist University star Farron Hunt tweeted last week that he may not play basketball this year with everything going on in the world. Hunt is a potential top 50 pick in the next year's NBA draft. Skipping the 2020-21 season entirely could hurt his basketball career and his future earning power. Joining us now to talk more about young athletes willing to put it all on the line is CBN Sports Director Sean Brown. Sean, let's begin there. We spoke last week about professional athletes using their platform to speak up for what they believe in. Are you seeing any similarities or differences as younger athletes are now choosing to act as well?
Yes. Good morning, Ephraim. Yes, actually, I spoke with Boston Celtics center Enes Kanter just a few days ago to kind of set the tone and give us the climate of the NBA. I believe you have that clip now. Take a listen to this.
If you look at what's happening here, especially the last 2 or 3 days, everyone has a very heavy heart, and, the atmosphere here is very heavy, and every NBA player asking and saying the same thing. We demand change and justice, and obviously, like everyone else, after watching that video, I was sick to my stomach, and you just, shot a man, father, I will say first father, 7 times behind his back, in front of his family and kids. And if, I mean, what NBA players are saying, enough is enough. You know, you look at what happened to Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, and now, you know, just Jacob Blake, and we are sick of it. That's why we are saying we need change, and change cannot wait anymore.
So you see there, Ephraim, you can hear the emotion in his voice, and you see college athletes watching professional athletes and saying they relate to what they're seeing. They relate to the emotion and the things that they're seeing via social media or in person. And as you mentioned, the young man at Mizzou, you know, they led a march and said, hey, it's a unity march, just because they felt like the university wasn't being vocal at all about what was happening. And so they just wanted to have a peaceful march. And he's considering not even playing the game because he feels that, you know, the fight for equality and the fight against social injustice and police brutality is more important than playing the sport. Now, I don't know if I agree with, you know, him giving up his platform as an athlete. I believe he's a track star. And so I don't know that, you know, I wouldn't advise him to do that, but I get his passion. I understand that he understands that it's more important than playing the sport. And so you look at, you know, what they've done. They've, you know, come up with a list of demands and said, hey, you know, hey, we want to be more vocal about this. But then you look at Illinois, I believe it's Illinois State, where the athletics director, Larry Lyons, in a conference was just talking about racism, but then uttered the phrase that all Redbirds matter, which is a mirror reflection of all lives matter, which is, you know, contradictory to Black Lives Matter. And so it's kind of an answer to that. And it's pretty dismissive when you think about it. And the student athletes understand that. They're seeing that and they're saying, hey, you know, we need to be more vocal about this. You know, and so he did usher an apology. Director Lyons, you know, ushered an apology for that. But they're saying, hey, you know, we want more done. We want to be more vocal. We see what's happening. They're emotional. They're trying to say, look, we're sick and tired of this, just as Ennis said, and we need to do more. But you can't sit on the sideline and say nothing about what's happening. And kids understand that. These college kids, they're intelligent, and they're saying, look, you know, we feel the emotion too, and we don't want to keep, you know, seeing these things happen to our fellow Americans. And the narrative has been really focused on the rioting and those kinds of things, rather than the anger behind the riots and the actual issue, which is police brutality and systemic racism. And so college kids, again, are smart. And so they're saying, hey, you know, we're sick of it. We want to be more vocal and really just try to get the message out there, the message of love and unity.
Real quick, due to the coronavirus concerns, the Big Ten has decided not to postpone fall sports. Could the civil unrest also lead to more postponements later on?
Well, possibly, you know, because of right now teams are scheduled to play. You know, they want to get back to football, but as soon as cases start, you know, when there's, you know, when cases begin to be reported in the locker room and it begins to expand, we may see what we saw, you know, in basketball last spring, you know, when the canceling of games, the canceling of a season. And so prayerfully that won't happen. But if it begins to happen, there are going to be postponements. There are going to, you know, there are going to be seasons canceled. And so, yeah, it is very, very possible. But again, it depends on the measures that they put in place, the discipline that the student athletes have. And then we'll have to see what happens as the season progresses.
All right, Sean Brown, thank you so much. Much appreciate your insight.
Thank you, Ephraim.
52 University of North Dakota students are staying in hotels after testing positive for COVID-19. Grand Forks County has the highest number of coronavirus cases in North Dakota. UND students account for half of them, 236 cases. The university is giving students the option to stay in a hotel for free so they can isolate. One student says she is trying to make the best of a tough situation.
I did have one breakdown like the first day because I was like, how am I going to do this? But after a while, you're just like, okay. The whole experience has been like eye-opening and shows you how much you kind of take for granted, but UND's been handling it very well.
UND's president says using hotel rooms has been working well for the university. Right now, about half of the rooms available for students are in use. Coming up, an historic week in Israel after the U.S. steps in. What our experts have to say about the benefits. But first, here's a quick look at today's trending stories at CBNNews.com.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep as the world watches from the outside.
It's a big diplomatic tug-of-war here in the Middle East.
Go inside the story with Jerusalem Dateline.
Israeli archaeologists are talking about a discovery that could change the thinking about the Temple Mount.
Join CBN Jerusalem Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell and get the biblical perspective on the events shaping the world.
What starts in Israel then ends up going to other places.
Watch Jerusalem Dateline, Friday night at 9:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
Benefits of the Israel-UAE peace deal continue to unfold following their historic meeting in Abu Dhabi last week. For the first time, Saudi Arabia said it was opening its skies to all flights to and from the United Arab Emirates. The document comes days after President Trump's senior advisor Jared Kushner and other U.S. officials flew with an Israeli delegation on the first direct Israel flight to the UAE. Saudi Arabia allowed that flight to travel through its airspace. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu hailed the announcement as a tremendous breakthrough.
Israeli planes and those from all countries will be able to fly directly from Israel to Abu Dhabi and Dubai and back. Flights will be cheaper and shorter, and it will lead to robust tourism and develop our economy.
The UAE deal is also impacting Israel's domestic policy. Kushner said as part of the deal, Israel has agreed to suspend the annexation of Judea and Samaria, at least for now. Joining us now to talk more about this peace agreement is Middle East correspondent Julie Stahl. So, Julie, a lot of the Middle East is excited about this deal. What's making the Iranians and Palestinians upset?
Well, the Palestinians are upset because for at least the last 26 years, there was an understanding that no Arab state would make peace with Israel, no other Arab state would make peace with Israel until there was a peace treaty with the Palestinians. Now, the Saudis had come up with the Arab Initiative a long time ago, and they said Israel would have to withdraw to the 1967 lines. But, of course, that's a non-starter for Israel. So the Palestinians, as they said, it's like a stab in the back, and this is this is not acceptable. As for the Iranians, nothing is acceptable. They said it's like treason because they don't want anybody to be friends with Israel. They want Israel wiped off the map. But also they see this because part of the reason for the deal with the UAE is because they see both the UAE and Israel see Iran as a common threat. So Iran also sees this as kind of a gathering group against it.
So what is next for Israel and the official accord with the UAE?
Well, so right now they're still working out. They had these meetings this week that were historic. Like we said, they will have to sign the agreement. They're still working out the details. Israel is hoping that the agreement can actually be signed before Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish holiday, which they traditionally celebrate as the New Year, and that begins the evening of the 18th of September. So they're hoping that that agreement is actually going to be signed by then. And also, we don't know what else is going to unfold between now and then. We already saw, just since they had this meeting, they haven't even signed the agreement. The Saudis, Bahrain have opened up their airspace to Israel. So we're already seeing things begin to move.
The UAE has made some pretty significant funding investments. Why is the money there giving to the United Nations Relief and Works Agency notable?
Well, the main thing is that UNRWA, as you said, the United Nations Relief Works Agency, they fund the Palestinian education. Half of what they receive, they give for Palestinian education, and that education is basically to hate Israel, to kill Israel. They took our land. We have to get rid of them. They don't belong there. So for the UAE to be signing a peace agreement with Israel, but on the other hand, to be supporting this education, it seems like there's a little bit of a dichotomy there. Something's not right. So some people are really calling on the UAE to stop funding that, or for UNRWA and the United Nations to really implement an educational system within the Palestinian Authority for peace. You know, all the time we've been talking about the UAE. The Palestinians were launching rockets and fire balloons at Israel. So there's definitely there needs to be a little bit of a deeper kind of look at that.
Real quick, what's on Jerusalem Dateline this week?
Well, you know, Ephraim, this is the start of our 10th season of Jerusalem Dateline. It's also going to be an anniversary show. Chris Mitchell, our bureau chief here, he started the bureau 20 years ago. And so this is an anniversary show. We're going to be looking at some of the highlights, some of the big stories, like when the IDF and Christian volunteers banded together to help the Muslims in Syria. Different things like that. Prophecy fulfilled in archaeology and in Aliyah.
Forward to that, and want to remind you at home that you can see Julie Stahl and the entire team, including Chris Mitchell, tonight on the CBN News Channel at 9:30 for Jerusalem Dateline. Archaeologists have uncovered rare remains of a royal structure from the time of the kings of Judah in Jerusalem. The video was posted to a City of David Ancient Jerusalem's Facebook page. The stone artifacts are made of limestone and have carvings that date back to the time of the Judean kings. Experts believe they are remnants of the grand mansion that overlooked the Temple Mount and Jerusalem's Old City. The objects are carved with an ancient symbol representing the Jewish kingdoms of Judah and Israel. The same symbol is printed today on the 5 shekel coin in Israel. Still ahead, stopping COVID-19 from getting to the worst stages, the treatment that doctors are considering a possibility. Stay with us.
On October 1st, 1961, history was made when a tiny station began transmitting the first signals of the Christian Broadcasting Network.
CBN, the Christian Broadcasting Network.
And now, a new era has begun with the all-new CBN News Channel.
Just moments ago, the Iron Dome intercepted an incoming rocket right on the Gaza border.
And ministering in this area, spiritual warfare is definitely involved.
A 24/7 news network, bringing you the news you want from a source you can trust.
In Kenya, 40% of the medical services are actually provided by these Christian hospitals.
Let's talk about the economy.
Believers here are joining together to win people to Jesus Christ.
All your favorite shows now in one place. Go to CBNNewsChannel.com to find out how to get the CBN News Channel on your TV all day, every day. CBN News. Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
Scientists are investigating whether a drug for asthma and other breathing conditions can also be used successfully to treat COVID-19. As Lori Johnson reports, the drug could prevent patients in the early stages of the disease from landing in the hospital.
Ever since COVID-19 burst on the scene, scientists saw right away it goes for the lungs. Then came a surprise when they saw that people treated for certain lung diseases seemed protected against the coronavirus. These COVID-19 patients with asthma and the lung disease COPD were in Asia, Europe, the United States, and elsewhere. We're just learning of this good news because they were either underrepresented or completely absent from the data.
So it seems to be a universal thing, which suggests that something that these patients are doing is keeping them out of hospital. It's not keeping them from getting COVID, but it's keeping them, at least in some cases, keeping them from getting very sick.
Turns out these patients who contracted COVID-19 were already using an inhaled corticosteroid, such as budesonide, to treat their asthma or COPD. Professor Dan Nicolau leads a clinical study testing budesonide's effectiveness when given very early after a person is infected with the coronavirus.
The earlier you use the steroids, the better, and that the effect should be around half, so it should reduce hospitalizations within our math model by around half.
Unwilling to wait for study results, some doctors have begun prescribing inhaled budesonide to patients recently diagnosed with COVID-19.
I can't do medicine without my faith. I often say to my patients up front that I consult Dr. Jesus.
Texas physician Ted Trimble has given it to 10 COVID patients with plans to continue.
9 out of those 10 did extremely well. Within the first few treatments, they could breathe much easier. One ended up needing to go to the hospital for oxygen support, but none required intubation or ventilation.
Tennessee family physician Tom Rogers has also seen positive results in 11 patients so far.
I started using it and with no side effects, and it seems to be if you treat early along with a Z-Pack and zinc, it really is very effective.
Rogers gives the budesonide specifically to COVID patients with respiratory symptoms like mild cough, wheezing, or shortness of breath. In cases where patients exhibit other symptoms such as loss of smell, achiness, or fatigue, Rogers quickly prescribes the controversial hydroxychloroquine with zinc and a Z-Pack.
I am a Christian, and my faith really carries me through every day, caring for people for all these years. And there's a couple things I'll tell you. One is there's another very powerful thing that works against any disease or illness, and it's called prayer.
While the Food and Drug Administration does not recommend budesonide or hydroxychloroquine to treat COVID-19, there has been movement. FDA Commissioner Stephen Hahn now admitting some hydroxychloroquine studies suggest a benefit and pointed out doctors are free to prescribe drugs off-label and the FDA does not regulate the practice of medicine. Lori Johnson, CBN News.
Social media giant Facebook is taking steps to handle misinformation ahead of the U.S. presidential election. The company will restrict new political ads in the week before the election. It will also remove posts that convey misinformation about COVID-19 and voting and attach links to the official results to posts from candidates and campaigns that declare premature victories. Coming up, a canceled event lends a hand to others. Why a couple celebrated their wedding day inside a homeless shelter. Stay with us.
Hey, if you're tired and exhausted all day, you can't think clearly, and you really just need a cup or even a pot of coffee to get through your day, then join me, Dr. Josh Axe, for this new series where I'm going to teach you how to transform your diet and use essential oils and supplements to get a better night's sleep.
Wake up to your best life.
Call 1-800-700-7000 to get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
It's about the competition.
I kind of put that pressure on myself, and I think people had expectations.
It's about overcoming.
We use this phrase all the time, keep chopping, keep practicing hard.
It's about going the distance.
I think as a father, it's my job, to lead. Just be the best husband and father I can be.
Watch Going the Distance with Sean Brown Saturday night at 7:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Orphans Promise is committed to loving and serving at-risk children, to helping keep families together, and to creating opportunities for strong and sustainable communities around the world. We're working in over 60 countries around the world, and with your help, we can do even more. There's an old African proverb I love that says, if you want to run fast, run alone. But if you want to run far, run together. At Orphans Promise, we want to run far so we can touch the lives of as many orphaned and vulnerable children as possible. But we don't want to go alone. We're out to change the world, one child, one family, one community at a time. Will you join us?
When I came to Regent University, it's like the world opened up. I felt like I needed to advance my career and go back to school. Regent was a perfect fit for me. The Regent professors are world class. You are equipped. The focus of the faculty is on each individual student, whether it's online or in person. You become a part of Regent's family. You carry with you not just the content and the knowledge, but the confidence to understand that we can be significant in the world.
Regent University. Follow your path.
The pandemic has forced countless couples to force or cancel or delay their weddings. But one Cleveland couple decided to cancel their formal reception and put that food to good use. They donated to a nonprofit that feeds and houses homeless women and children. The organization is called Laura's Home. The couple also helped to serve the meals to residents on their wedding day. Beautiful. It is now time for your Friday Faithful, and today I want to leave you with this thought. The bridge between your dreams and reality is work. When you begin the work, you begin the faith walk towards your dreams. So get to work and make movement on that bridge. With that word, I encourage you to make today a fabulous Friday, and be sure to have yourself a wonderful holiday weekend. That is going to do it for this edition of CBN News Watch. You can always find more of our programs on the CBN News Channel at any time. You can also find them online at cbnnews.com. We'd love to know what you think about the stories you've seen today. You can email us at the address right there on your screen, newswatch@cbn.com. We'll see you right back here come Monday. Goodbye and God bless.